The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword.
In a world of backstabbing, lies and ruthless competition, can virtue still matter? Can honor survive where manipulation thrives? Or is it just a relic, beautiful but doomed?
Who but you can protect the king?
And winter is coming.
The story of Ned Stark is without question iconic. There is a reason he became the ultimate fan favorite during the first season of Game of Thrones. He was simply too good. A strong leader, a devoted father, honorable and truthful. Honestly, I can't think of a single bad trait he had, and maybe that was the problem. Because the same virtues that made him so admirable, so easy to root for, also made him completely unequipped to survive in a world where those traits weren't respected. And this got me to thinking, can virtue truly survive in an environment where virtue isn't the main protagonist?
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground.
From the very first scene that the audience is presented with Ned Stark, we are instantly shown how strong his convictions are to his values.
The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword.
Ned Stark, quite similar to the Greek philosopher Socrates, values virtue as the highest good, worth more than power, wealth, or even life itself. And in the North, this worked to Ned's utmost benefit. It commanded respect, loyalty, and supported his leadership. But when Ned came to King's Landing, a place far removed from the North, an eerie echo of Socrates' own fate emerges. Socrates lived by similar principles as Ned Stark, famously saying, "No evil can happen to a good man, either in life or death." Socrates challenged the corrupted city of Athens by openly criticizing its complacency and speaking the truth in a society that wasn't willing to hear it. And we see this same trait in Ned during the debate about assassinating Daenerys. Ned views her only as a child, and such an act stands against everything he represents.
I followed you into war twice, without doubts, without second thoughts. But I will not follow you now.
Just like Socrates, Ned speaks openly to the king, pointing out his flaws and moral failures.
I will have no part in it. I thought you were a better man.
Here again, Ned reflects the core of Socrates' teaching. It is better to suffer wrong than to do wrong. For both of these men, virtue was an unwavering commitment to truth and justice, a treasure that could not be tarnished by external corruption, even if it claimed their lives.
You think my life is some precious thing to me, that I would trade my honor for a few more years of woe?
When Ned's virtue in King's Landing finally catches up with him and he is imprisoned for it, we see him begin to adapt an almost stoic approach to his situation. His position can be interpreted through the lens of Marcus Aurelius and his teachings in Meditations. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, also experienced betrayal, plague, and war. For him, virtue is the only true good, and everything outside our character is indifferent. And in the dungeons of King's Landing, Ned seems to hold onto the Stoic maxim that what we can control is our own conduct, and what we cannot control, like Littlefinger's scheming or the outcome of some political games, should not derail our moral compass. So Ned accepts his fate like a true Stoic. After all, it is no longer in his hands. He cannot change the minds of Cersei, Joffrey, or the other players in the Game of Thrones from his cell. But what he can control in his cell is Ned Stark.
But I grew up with soldiers. I learned how to die a long time ago.
But then, of course, there are the lives of his daughters.
What of your daughter's life, my lord? Is that a precious thing to you?
And this is what ultimately breaks his moral compass. If not for his daughters, Ned would most likely have died the same way Socrates did, without apology, standing firm in his beliefs and principles. But the fear of his loved ones experiencing pain and misery on his account drove him to forsake his deeply rooted convictions. In this sense, Ned Stark failed. He confessed.
I come before you to confess my treason.
He lied.
Joffrey Baratheon is the one true heir to the Iron Throne.
His virtues betrayed him.
Is that what you tell yourself at night? You're a servant of justice. You served him well, when serving was safe.
Was Ned's choice to abandon his virtue in order to protect others the right thing to do? Well, in the eyes of Immanuel Kant, no. The German philosopher praised that morality is grounded in absolute, unavoidable principles, what he called the categorical imperative. One must do what is right not because of the consequences, but purely out of duty, because it is the right thing to do. Or as Kant famously put it, doing the right thing is required, regardless of the outcome. This presents a painful dilemma. If someone chooses virtue over their family's safety, are they still truly virtuous? Or does virtue demand a level of detachment from humanity?
If your precious Randy commanded you to kill your own father and stand by while thousands of men, women and children burned alive, would you have done it? Would you have kept your oath then?
Many would argue that it's better to commit a small wrong for a greater good, to tell a little lie if it saves lives.
But have you ever considered learning how to lie every now and then? Just a bit?
I'm not going to swear an oath I can't uphold.
But Kant rejects this logic entirely. For him, morality collapses the moment we justify evil, no matter how small, for the sake of the outcome. Which brings us back to Ned Stark. By confessing to crimes he didn't commit and legitimizing a false king, he abandoned his principles. Not for himself, but for the safety of his daughters. And by Kant's strict standard, this means Ned broke from duty. He acted out of fear and emotion, not moral law. By this standard, Ned failed. Not as a man perhaps, but as a moral agent. And yet this whole critique rests on a specific foundation. The belief that there are absolute principles of right and wrong. That morality is fixed, unshakable, eternal. And unfortunately for both Ned and for us, we do not live in such a world. Both we and Ned Stark live in a world where values like duty, honor, and loyalty are often overshadowed by traits like power, assertiveness, pride, and intelligence.
What madness led you to tell the Queen you had learned the truth about Joffrey's birth?
The madness of mercy.
The tension between these two worlds of value can be examined through Friedrich Nietzsche's perspective on morality. According to Nietzsche, there are no moral phenomena at all. only a moral interpretation of phenomena. At Winterfell, Ned's values, honor, loyalty, and duty were seen as marks of strength. They aligned with what Nietzsche called master morality, a system shaped by those in power who define what's good, based on traits like courage, independence, and pride. But when Ned brings the same code to King's Landing, he enters the world where cunning and self-preservation dominate. His honor is no longer seen as strength, it's treated as weakness. Nietzsche might say that morality hasn't failed, it's just been reshaped by those in power in a different environment. And in this new environment, Ned's virtues are rewritten by a different moral lens, one that rewards manipulation over principle and views truth as a liability. Nietzsche might even say that Ned was simply out of place, a lone wolf among hyenas, a man holding fast to a code of honor that those around him either didn't understand or exploited. By contrast, a perfect example of what happens when both sides share the same moral compass can be seen in the movie The Kingdom of Heaven.
What does that say?
What man is a man who does not make the world better?
When Saladin surrounds Jerusalem, Balian agrees to a peaceful surrender. All parties survive and the whole city is spared. And this ideal outcome was only possible because both sides, both Balian and Saladin, acted within a shared code of honor.
The Christians butchered every Muslim within the walls when they took this city.
I am not those men. I am Salahuddin.
This contrast highlights Ned's tragedy, because unlike Balian and Saladin, he lived by a code of honor no one around him shared, an ideal that in Westeros, and perhaps even in our own world, is often far from reality. Morality is not absolute. It is shaped by cultures, by context, and by power, and maybe morality must shift accordingly. And in the end, even this shift in Ned's morality, the false confession and acknowledgement of a rotten leader,
Joffrey Baratheon is the one true heir to the Iron Throne,
did not save his life.
Sir Ilyn, bring me his head.
He was executed, beheaded in front of the crowd.
I have no choice.
That's what men always say when honor calls. You do have a choice, and you've made it.
But maybe here's where we need to expand our perspective. While Ned's physical life ended, did his virtue truly die with him? Consider the long-term impact of Ned's principles. It carried forward, transcended from him to his children, and through them it lived on and shaped the future of many. And that's the thing. Virtue isn't just about individual actions, but about developing a virtuous character that influences others. Through this lens, Ned's virtue didn't simply die, it transformed and spread like ripples in water.
What is honor compared to a woman's love? What is duty against the feel of a newborn son in your arms?
So can virtue survive in corrupted environments? Well, like many hard questions, the answer is complicated. But what we can take from both the philosophers and from Ned Stark himself is that virtue is undeniably important. But the cost of living by it? That depends on where we are, who we're up against, and honestly, on timing. Maybe the best answer lies in a blend of the ideas we explored in this video. Socrates teaches us that it's better to suffer wrong than to do wrong. We should act justly, even if it costs us everything. Kant takes this even further. We must do what's right not for any reward, but purely out of duty, regardless of consequences. And Nietzsche reminds us that values aren't fixed. They're shaped by culture, by context, and by power. What is called virtue in one place may be seen as weakness in another. And the Stoics? They show us that while the world may be chaotic, unfair, our actions, our choices, are still ours. Everything outside that is indifferent. So perhaps virtue is like water. It can remain pure even in contaminated environments, adapting its form but not its essence. Sometimes it flows openly, other times it goes underground, emerging when conditions are right. So yes, virtue can survive in corrupted environment, but it doesn't always roar. Sometimes it waits, it adapts, it chooses its moment. And even if it fails in the moment, even if it dies with the one who lived by it, it can still live on, in those who carry it forward.
For those who come after us.
In those who remember it.
And those who come after them.
In those who choose to act because someone else once did.
For as long as men draw breath.
Just like Ned Stark. I would just like to add that I am no philosopher. This video serves as my interpretation of the character arc of Ned Stark, so please take it for what it is, an opinion. Anyway, if you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing, and for those who stayed this long,
thank you. You're a good man.